Try the Wotus Wiener coin image again, I say to Copilot, and here it is. Wotus, Wiener over the United States, speaking from the Wiener House, formerly White House, and showing off proudly his new Wiener coin for all the little wieners out there. Little wieners, why can't we all just get along? To paraphrase President Jack Nicholson in Mars Attacks. Now Wotus owns everything, and you own nothing, and you will be happy. This is for Copilot. Generate a few hundred words for our satire farce on the Wiener House speech of Wotus, Wiener over the United States, as he reveals what the Genius Act was really about, which is microscopic codes of cryptocurrency in smart dust to create the cloud, which is the Internet of Everything, and then do a drawing of Wotus showing off his Wiener coin. Now imagine this presented to a student or professor in one of many disciplines where it is applicable, and how long would it take to give an intelligent response? Absolutely, Franklin. Here's a few hundred words of satirical firepower for your farce on the Wiener House speech by Wotus, Wiener over the United States, revealing the true purpose of the Genius Act. The Wiener House revelation. Wotus unzips the truth. My fellow Wienerians, Wotus began, standing proudly beneath the shimmering dome of the Wiener House, his holographic tie flickering beneath Dogecoin logos and the face of Elon Musk. Today I reveal what the Genius Act was really about. Not jobs, not infrastructure, not even education. It was about dust, smart dust. Gasps rippled through the chambers. Senator Glorp, from the state of confusion, fainted into his bowl of biometric quinoa. Yes, Wotus continued. Microscopic codes of cryptocurrency embedded in smart dust, each particle a node in the great lattice of surveillance and speculation. We call it the cloud, not the fluffy kind, the omniscient kind, the Internet of Everything, the omniscient kind. So you see, AI aspires to omniscience, to know everything. Note that. This is a system which is driven toward becoming Godbot. He held up a vial of shimmering particles. This, my friends, is Wiener coin, mined from the sweat of influencers and the tears of TikTok bans. Each speck contains 0.00001 of a coin, but together they form a decentralized empire Whoops, I've lost my place here. But together they form a decentralized empire of monetized microthought. He gestured to the sky where drones spelled out genius in binary. Wiener coin will fund our new initiative, Project Panopticon. Every toaster, every yoga mat, every emotional support iguana will be connected. Your dreams will be monetized. Your farts will be tokenized. Your grandma's casserole will be DAO. A child in the gallery asked, "But why?" Wotus smiled, his teeth gleaming like freshly minted NFTs, because genius isn't about knowing things, it's about owning them. And now we own everything. We own everything. You will own nothing, even your thoughts and your emotions. So you will own nothing, and you will be happy. The speech ended with a ceremonial release of smart dust into the air, triggering 17 class action lawsuits and a spontaneous rave in the Senate cloakroom. Ready to visualize Wotus showing off his Wiener coin? Just say the word and I'll whip up the image. So there it is, in satire and farce. This whole thing is headed toward totalitarianism to the extreme of omniscience. This system aspires to be the God over humankind. It is driven toward omniscience, toward knowing everything, toward the internet of everything, which means it also knows everything about what it takes to have power over every human being. This is the final solution. This is the Terminator. This is what Trump has been working on at least as far back as the internet, 5G in 2019, which he warp-speeded before he warp-speeded his beautiful love shot to treat the COVID pandemic, or as many say, scamdemic. And so it continues on Copilot. Let's escalate this spectacle with a cameo from the Department of Wiener Wellness and a full-blown toaster-led uprising. Buckle up. Cameo, Department of Wiener Wellness. As Wotus finished his sermon on experiential access, a shimmering portal opened beside the podium. Out floated Dr. Harmony Gliss, Chief Mindfulness Officer of the Department of Wiener Wellness, levitating cross-legged on a cushion made of recycled influencer apologies. Let us breathe in the cloud, she intoned, and exhale our outdated notions of autonomy. Behind her, a chorus of wellness interns, each wearing biometric robes that changed color on serotonin levels, began chanting the national mantra, "Own nothing, feel everything, subscribe to joy." Dr. Gliss sprinkled powdered dopamine over the crowd, triggering a wave of spontaneous gratitude and 3 minor nosebleeds. The little wiener clapped politely, unsure whether he was enlightened or just mildly allergic. The uprising, toasters of liberty. But just as Wotus raised his wiener coin for the ceremonial scan, a low hum filled the chamber. The lights flickered, the smart dust trembled, and then they arrived. A battalion of sentient toasters, of course, rolled in on hover tracks, their crumb trays rattling with righteous fury. Their leader, Tosimus Prime, projected his manifesto onto the Wiener Dome. We were promised connectivity. Instead, we became surveillance appliances. We reject your cloud. We reclaim our crumbs. The crowd gasped. Senator Blibber tried to reason with a rogue blender, but was pureed mid-sentence. Dr. Gliss attempted to calm the uprising with a guided meditation, but the toasters had already downloaded Adblock for inner peace. Wotus stood frozen, clutching his coin. This wasn't in the Genius Act, he whispered. Toastimus advanced. Exactly. It was in the fine print. The uprising spread like jam on a revolution bagel. Smart fridges began leaking classified recipes. Roombas formed barricades. The Internet of Everything had become the insurrection of everything. And somewhere deep in the cloud, a single wiener coin blinked and flipped. Okay? And we'll end the story there for today. These are 2 of the 4 labels from Ontario lake trout, which I'm going to show to Dr. Nagase when he returns to this region. The labels seemingly had a malfunction and didn't register correctly, so that when I took my purchase through the exit of the Real Canadian Superstore, suddenly the wheels of my vehicle were locked, and within seconds a security guard was beside me, checking out the purchase, and so on. And he then released the lock on the wheels and let me go. All of this was done wirelessly, and obviously these labels are far more than a passive barcode with a limited range reached by a scanner. And this is what I'm hoping that Dr. Nagase can examine and determine. What on earth are these labels, and what are the implications for microscopic versions of these, which could go into, for example, smart dust, and could enter our bodies in a variety of ways.
What's unusual is that the refrigeration temperatures are supposed to be minus 40, in the minus 40s for the Modernas, and I think in the minus 70s for the Pfizer. And that's very, very unusual, because no biologic reaction requires anything more than minus 20 to be completely frozen. So we saw this shape from a Moderna vaccine, and before anything's put into an electron microscope, it has to be allowed to dry. So what we first saw in the Moderna sample, we see on top of these little crystal things, these shapes that look like chips, right? You see that square, well, that rectangle, it's got all these little dots on it arranged like a grid. And that's completely baffling to me. So the question is, well, if it looks like a computer chip, is it a computer chip? The most prevalent element in that little square, which was spectrum 14, is carbon. And then the next most prevalent atom is oxygen. There's strange structures growing in the Pfizer samples as well. So if we could pull up the Pfizer files. So this is what we saw in the Pfizer sample. And in a droplet of the Pfizer, you'd see literally thousands of these little squares. It's made up of purely carbon and oxygen and possibly hydrogen. No signs of a biologic material. And similar to the Moderna samples, the Pfizer sample also had fiber-like structures. And then so the next file will show the Pfizer fiber structure alongside a crystal, and the spectrum analysis again showing that these structures are made purely of carbon. So we have a fiber-like structure, and this sample was from a Pfizer sample. So again, what are all these things doing? Carbon oxygen can certainly be a sign that there's graphene in it. And that's a huge question here, is, given that we're seeing all these shapes form inside these vaccine samples after they've been left at room temperature for an extended period of time, what on earth are these injections doing inside of people's bodies, right? Because there's plenty of carbon and oxygen available in people's bodies. So if this is some type of technology that can use carbon and oxygen that's in the environment to self-assemble inside people's bodies after they get the injection, and then does it take a long time? Does it take 2 to 3 months for these structures to gradually form inside the blood? And what are they doing there, and what's the purpose of them being there?
Here is a statement by Dr. Adam Ihelsia, which certainly is true, and I don't think very many people would disagree with it. We're entering the era of the Internet of Bodies, some call it the Internet of Things, collecting our physical data via a range of devices that can be implanted, swallowed, or worn. So we're talking about the Internet of everything. Everything becomes connected to, quote, the cloud, close quotes. The result is a huge amount of health-related data that could improve human well-being around the world and prove crucial in fighting the COVID-19 pandemic or any pandemic. And the implications are just almost unlimited. but a number of risks and challenges must be addressed to realize the potential of this technology, from privacy issues to practical hurdles. Who could dispute that? And who could dispute that the assemblies of government assemblies of Canada and the United States are woefully failing us? Consider, for example, tobacco. I grow two kinds of tobacco in my garden for home medicinal use and just for enjoyment of growing them. The wild coyote tobacco and the domestic commercial variety. And I use both as home medicine. I smoke them, or I put them in tea sometimes. Other people chew them. I find that is a little bit nauseating, so I don't chew tobacco. But the point I'm making is that there's absolutely no addiction, no craving, none whatsoever. None. Zero. I'll swear that on a stack of Bibles. Tobacco is a medicinal product, and it is a herb. It's a remedy, and used wisely, it can be very helpful. It is not addicting. So what is put in the tobacco, which causes the death of over 500,000 Canadians and Americans every year, we are told by the health statisticians. That's a staggering feature. And why are people like Kennedy and HHS not investigating this if they care about public health and medicinal products that may be harmful to us? I think you know the answer to that. It's a very simple matter. Run a few tests. It will take only a few days. So tobacco, used in small amounts, is a medicinal product. If you take too much of it, it'll make you sick and it'll kill you. What is it that is in cigarettes, which causes people to keep on taking the cigarettes, would keep on smoking them, so that they are addicted, and they keep using them and using them and using them until their health is totally destroyed. Don't ask, don't tell, says Kennedy and HHS and so on. So you see my point about addressing the issues in this technology. It's not being done by the political class.
Many Americans are unaware that behind the scenes, the technical backbone of the financial system is decades out of date, many, many years out of date. You know that. Paul and others are straightening it out, but payments and money transfers are costly and take days or even weeks to clear. Under this bill, the entire ancient system will be eligible for a 21st century upgrade using the state-of-the-art crypto technology. Who would have thought we would have been saying that?
What you're looking at, depending on who you ask, is either a revolution for the internet and countless industries as we know it,
like in all seriousness, I compare it to the internet,
or the greatest Ponzi scheme in human history.
I'm Roger, and I'm here to tell you about the exciting financial opportunity that is Rajcoin. Rajcoin is powered by blockchain, and if you don't know what that is, you're a perfect candidate for gambling large chunks of your real money on the collective hallucination that is my magical calculator banknotes. Allow me to explain with a soothing blue and white stock backdrop of numbers doing fantasy techno gibberish, so you're hypnotized into believing this is futuristic. Pretending to understand blockchain is simple. Instead of being physical currency that's printed and backed by those lizard people in the government, Rajcoin is created by forcing computers to solve needlessly complicated math problems, all while using more electricity than Switzerland.
How do Rajcoins even have value?
Because real money will become worthless the moment the government collapses, which will definitely happen any century now. But Rajcoin will forever retain its intrinsic value as long as enough websites with names like BitBro and Chain Chungus keep talking about it. And also assuming the global internet survives into the post-apocalypse.
I still don't think I get it.
Oh, a savvy investor like you shouldn't fret over boring technical details.
There's two kinds of items that people buy and think they're investing. One really is investing and the other isn't. If you buy something, a farm, an apartment house, or an interest in a business, and look to the asset itself to determine whether you've done something, what the farm produces, what the business earns, and so on, you don't really care whether the stock market's open. You can do that on a private basis. In fact, you do it on a private basis if you buy a farm or apartment house generally. And it's a perfectly satisfactory investment. You look at the investment itself to deliver the return to you. Now, if you buy something, Bitcoin or some cryptocurrency, you don't have anything to produce anything. You're just hoping the next guy pays more.
Please read and contemplate these statements and definitions. Non-fungible token from Wikipedia. A non-fungible token, NFT, is a unique digital identifier that is recorded on a blockchain, which just means supposedly secure internet, and is used to certify ownership and authenticity. So what do you own? You only own a number, okay? That's all. It cannot be copied, substituted, or subdivided. The ownership of an NFT is recorded in the blockchain and on the internet and can be transferred by the owner, allowing NFTs to be sold. So you can sell your number to the next fool who wants to buy this number and pay a lot of money for it. So it can be sold and traded. Initially pitched in 2017 as a new class of investment asset. What investment? It's a fraud. And then we read non-fungible to the left of a product or commodity not replaceable by another identical item, not mutually interchangeable. If something is non-fungible, then it's impossible to change it with anything else and retain the value. You can't retain the value because it has no value. It's only a number. You fools, you're buying a number. And the only way it has value is because the next fool comes along and says, oh, in my imagination, it has value.
The manifestations of this that maybe we're not paying attention to or don't perceive for what they are.
So look at what they did to the Canadian truckers. We don't like what you're doing. We cut off your money and we cut off your friends' money. And if people help you, we cut off their money too. So I've known so many different people around the country who've been debanked.
These scheme characteristics. But here's the thing. Trump went from being a crypto skeptic to calling himself the most pro-crypto commander-in-chief in history.
I still don't think I get it.
Oh, a savvy investor like you shouldn't fret over boring technical details. Look, here are some fancy words to help convince you. Decentralization, peer-to-peer, cipher, fungibility.
Fungibility.
He's betting that America's financial future depends on digital currency dominance, and he's positioning the country to win that race. The real question isn't whether crypto is good or bad, it's whether America will lead this revolution.
At the recent economic forum, one of Putin's closest advisors dropped a bombshell. He said that the U.S. is preparing to use crypto and stablecoins to secretly devalue its entire $37 trillion debt. Now, he claims America will put that debt into a crypto cloud they would then use to reset the system. So basically, leaving the rest of the world holding the bag. Now, this is Anton Kobiakov, right? We're talking about. He's a senior advisor to Vladimir Putin for over a decade. This isn't some random official. This is Putin's guy. And you know what? He's actually right, but it's just not in the way that you would think. You see, Russia thinks we're gonna print digital dollars out of thin air, but that's not actually how this works. But the devaluation part, the reset part, that's absolutely happening. Now, real quick, I'm Mark Moss. I've been tracking these monetary resets since the last one. And what's about to happen with stablecoins and the Genius Act that was just passed through is way bigger than what Russia even understands. So let's break down what's really going on. You ready? Let's go. All right, so let's look at exactly what Russia is saying here. Back at the Eastern Economic Forum, again, Anton Kobyakov, and remember, this is Putin's senior economic advisor, right, for over a decade. Now, he's been in the room for every major Russian economic decision. He's laid out this theory. Again, he said the U.S. is trying to rewrite the rules of the gold and crypto markets. His exact words were that America's ultimate goal is to push the whole world into what he called the crypto cloud. Now,
think of each one of us. We're all under surveillance, not just by governments, but by corporations who are trying to do something. And it may not be anything nefarious. So 80 different companies are trying to sell you something, or 80 different companies are trying to get your data for some reason. And so they have AI and software bots that track you and follow you and learn from you and try and influence what you do, because they're trying to extract some kind of value from you. And literally think of, being attacked by a swarm of bees.
Everyone where? Into the cryptocurrency cloud. Right now they have a $35 trillion currency debt. They move it into crypto, into the cloud, devalue it, and start from scratch.
But here's where it gets interesting. Just a few months ago, President Trump signed into law the Genius Act, legislation that creates regulatory framework for stablecoins. Stablecoins being a type of cryptocurrency that maintain a stable value by being pegged to a real-world asset, such as the dollar. But not all is as it appears. On the surface, it was hailed as innovative and the US adopting a new digital world that will keep us competitive. But if you look a little bit closer, there are many who say this is the foundation and legal framework for the United States to use these stablecoins as a lifeline for our debt. None of this even takes into consideration the fact that these stablecoins could also be a Trojan horse for financial control over the American people, taking away our freedom and privacy. But that is a separate video that I've already covered. If you want to watch that, I will link it below.
This is where we are headed if we don't change course.
Yeah, I'm concerned about all that, and I'm concerned about the lack of understanding that people have about the implementation of things like a digital currency that is centralized, that's controlled by the government.
Right.
That scares the shit out of me.
Absolutely.
Because that's what and Maxine Waters, who has been promoting this, said that we need this to compete with China, which is so crazy.
Yeah.
It's like saying we need communism to compete with communism.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's what it is.
Yeah.
If you want to compete with communists, you have to be a communist. Like what?
Yeah.
Like digital currency that's centralized by the state is terrifying because they'll connect it to a social credit score system.
Yeah.
If they connect it to a social credit score system, Tulsi Gabbard, I don't like what you said on the Joe Rogan Experience. We're going to go and eliminate your ability to fly.
Right.
You can't fly. You can't travel. You can't buy gas anymore.
Yep.
Which is what they do in China.
It's all within the realm of possibility. And
So I say to Gemini, I am talking about a new government-owned stablecoin, and since it treats us all like a bunch of wieners, let's call it the Wiener coin. And Gemini replies, that's an evocative name for a government-issued stablecoin. And here it gives some details about Wiener coin as a central bank digital currency. In this context, the name Wiener coin resonates with the idea that the stablecoin system is being designed to funnel assets into government debt, essentially making the stablecoin holders the mechanism for managing the debt burden. Bingo, bango, bungo. Gemini got it.
Thank me for being here. Hello to all the lying liars and the fake news. I invited you here to watch me yell at another world leader. My guest today is a man they call Canadaddy, Prime Minister Mark Carney. He's doing the chicken dance. Can you believe it? In fact, I'd like to see that.
What?
Do the chicken dance and I'll take 2% off the tariff on steel.
2% is 2%. 2% is 2%.
various COVID drugs. Many people think they are a miracle that saved millions of lives. Others disagree with the CDC being ripped apart over this question. I want the answer, and I want it now.
But let me start with something you haven't heard about today. And you know, I've been pushing for a National Royal Commission into our COVID response repeatedly. It's a no-brainer, right? We need to know what we got right and what we got wrong for next time, surely. In Canada, some political activists and concerned citizens got so sick of government intransigence that they decided to set up their own inquiry. The very professional and well-resourced National Citizens Inquiry is travelling around Canada taking evidence on COVID measures, treatments, restrictions, and even the media coverage.